Good morning. It is now 10:15 a.m., June 24th, 2014. Welcome to the Department of Motor Vehicles public hearing on the regulatory proposal to adopt sections 16, 16.02, 16.04, 16.06, 16.10, 16.12, and 16.14 of Chapter 1, Division 1, Article 2.0 of Title 13 of the California Code of Regulations relating to driver's licenses, which was published in the California Regulatory Notice on May 9th, 2014, with notice number Z-2014-0429-12. I'm Brian Soublé, Acting Deputy Director and Chief Counsel of the California Department of Motor Vehicles. I'm also the department's contact person for this regulatory proposal, and I will be the chairperson at this hearing. With me on the stage is Kristen Tripke, Chief of the Program and Policy Development Branch of the department's Licensing Operation Division. We are here today in the Carmel Room of the Junipero Building at 320 West 4th Street in Los Angeles to accept comments on the regulatory proposal to accept documents by the Department of Motor Vehicle that will prove identity and California residency with the purpose of issuing driver's licenses to persons who are unable to submit satisfactory proof that their presence in the United States is authorized under federal law. This is a hearing on the regulatory text. This is not a town hall meeting or a workshop. Today, our focus is to receive comments on the regulations that have been proposed by the department. Under the rulemaking provisions of the California Administrative Procedures Act, this is the time and place set for the presentation of statements, arguments, and contentions, orally and in writing, for or against the Department of Motor Vehicles regulatory proposal. This is a quasi-legislative hearing in which the Department of Motor Vehicles carries out a rulemaking function delegated to it by the legislature. People making comments at this hearing will not be sworn, nor will we engage in extensive cross-examination. We will take under submission all written and oral comments submitted or made during this hearing. We will respond to those comments in the final statement of reasons that will be submitted to the Office of Administrative Law. Before we begin taking comments, I would like to lay out how we're going to proceed today. This rulemaking hearing will be recorded and transcribed. The transcription, together with all exhibits and evidence presented during this hearing, will be made part of the rulemaking record. The record of this hearing will be kept open until the close of business on Thursday, June 26, 2014, in order to receive additional relevant evidence from other interested parties. We are providing language assistance this morning and have headphones so that you can hear translations. If you have received headphones, you must return them before you exit the room today. Speakers receiving translation assistance must keep in mind that they have to allow the person assisting them time to translate their comments so that we can get them adequately reflected on the record. We have prepared a two-part exhibit, which is made together available at the door when you entered. Part 1 is the express terms or the proposed regulatory language of this action. Part 2 is the statement of reasons for this proposal. Copies of these documents were made to all persons who requested copies of our rulemaking notices and to other interested parties who may be affected by the proposal. They are also available on the department's website. The scope of this hearing is limited to receiving comments, statements, and contentions on the proposed regulation text. However, there are a few things that are outside the scope of this hearing. Consequently, we will not be taking comments on them this morning. Those are, first, the passage of AB 60. We have already received quite a few comments by email that are related to the passage of AB 60. That is the law upon which this regulatory proceeding is based. I want to be perfectly clear this morning. This is not a hearing about whether or not AB 60 should be implemented. AB 60, which amended certain provisions of the Vehicle Code, was passed by the legislature and signed by the governor last fall. It is now the law in this state. Longstanding California law, specifically Vehicle Code Section 1650, states that the director of the Department of Motor Vehicles, quote, shall enforce the provisions of the Vehicle Code relating to the Department of Motor Vehicles, end quote. Moreover, the California Constitution at Article 3, Section 3.5 says that an administrative agency, in this case the Department of Motor Vehicles, has no power to refuse to enforce a statute on the basis that it is unconstitutional unless an appellate court has determined the statute to be unconstitutional. Consequently, if the purpose of your comment today is to implore the department not to enforce a law that has been validly enacted, you are in the wrong forum. That ship has already sailed, and we will not entertain any comments about whether the department should implement the provisions of AB 60. Second, the markings on the card. The regulations do not address the marking on the card. Consequently, that is not a topic for comment today. Vehicle Code Section 12801.9, subsection D, says that the card shall bear a recognizable feature on the front and contain the notice, this card is issued as a license to drive a motor vehicle. It does not establish eligibility for employment, voter registration, or public benefits. Subsection E requires the DMV to modify the card to the extent necessary to satisfy the Department of Homeland Security. This issue is addressed in the statute. DMV cannot enact a regulation that expands the scope of the statute. Consequently, discussions on the markings of the card are irrelevant to the proceedings this morning. Third, costs. DMV does not control fees imposed by other governmental entities. AB 60 enacted Vehicle Code Section 12801.9, which among other things requires these regulations to establish the documents acceptable for proving identity and procedures for verifying the authenticity of those documents. To the extent that we cannot verify documents, we have included something that no other state has included in their regulations or statutes, a secondary review process for people who do not have the type of documents specified in the regulations. Moreover, while AB 60 gives us authority to specify additional charge for a driver's license, we are only going to be charging the $33 that it currently costs to obtain a license. For those reasons, we will not be taking comments on the costs associated with obtaining source documents from some other governmental entity. Fourth, privacy of source documents. One thing that everyone must keep in mind, DMV is not the end of this process. Regulations proposed by any agency must be reviewed and approved by the Office of Administrative Law. That approval process involves a determination that the proposed regulation does not alter, amend, enlarge, or impair the scope of the authority conferred in statute, is consistent and not in conflict with or contradictory to existing law, is clear in terms, does not duplicate existing statute, state or federal law, and is necessary to effectuate the purpose of the statute it is implementing. If OAL makes a determination that the proposed regulation does not meet any of those standards, it can disapprove the regulatory proposal, which means the regulation would not go into effect. DMV's regulatory proposal is about establishing standards to accept documents. This regulatory proposal is not about establishing privacy protections. That is outside the scope of the authority conferred on DMV by the enabling statutes. Since anything that is beyond the authority granted by the statute and is a known ground for disapproval of a regulatory proposal, we will not be taking comments on privacy provisions. Those comments are not within the scope of the regulations proposed by the department. Lastly, we received hundreds of email comments and comments on postcards that appear to have been scripted. Again, we are here to hear specific comments about the proposed regulation text, and there are a lot of people who have signed up to speak. Consequently, I will not accept repetitive, scriptive comments that are not related to any specific provision of the text of the regulations. We simply do not have the time to hear again and again the same scripted comment. As you entered the room, you were offered the opportunity to sign in or register for this hearing. The sign-in sheet allows us to keep an orderly schedule for those persons who are present and wish to speak. I will be using the sign-in sheets to call people to comment. Please do not come forward to the microphone until I have called your name and asked you to step forward. You may sign in at any time during this hearing. We are going to keep an orderly hearing today. Speakers will be given 2 minutes to make their comments. We have a timer here that will show you how much time you have remaining. It will beep at the expiration of your 2 minutes. I will enforce the 2-minute time limit, and there will be no ceding of time to other speakers. I will only accept comments on this regulatory proposal. More specifically, the regulations that have been put out for comment by the department. If your comment does not address the proposals put forth by the department, I will ask you to return to your seat. I will not allow anyone to disrupt this proceeding. Anyone who disrupts the proceeding will be escorted from the room. As we are holding a second hearing in Oakland on Thursday, if you provide comments today and also attend the Oakland hearing, I will not accept comments from you on Thursday that are simply a repeat of the comments that you make today. Now that we've addressed all of the rules, we can move on to the reason why we're here. Assembly Bill 60 from 2013 amended California Vehicle Code sections 1653.5, 12801, 12801.5, and added sections 12801.9, .10, and .11, requiring the Department of Motor Vehicles to begin issuing original driver's licenses to people who cannot provide documentation establishing that their presence in the United States is authorized under federal law by January 1, 2015, or an earlier date if the DMV director determines that the department is prepared to begin issuing those licenses. Vehicle Code Section 12801.9 requires the department's regulations to establish the documents that will be accepted by the department to prove identity and California residency, and it requires the department to establish procedures for verifying the authenticity of those documents. We are here today to obtain comments on the proposed regulations, which have been designed to ensure that the people who apply for a license are who they say they are by establishing procedures to identify documents that have been produced with security features that prevent them from being counterfeited and can be verified by resort to secondary documents or secondary sources of information, or directly with the issuing governmental entity. At this time, I'm going to begin calling up speakers that have signed in. That's on the basis of the sign-in sheets that I have received. I'm going to call up one speaker, and then I will also name 2 other people to come in and take the seats here in the front row. If I do not call your name, do not come forward at this time. I'm reading the names from the sign-in sheets, and so if I mispronounce your name, I do apologize because I'm having to read your handwriting. Again, we have a 2-minute timer. When that timer beeps, your time is up, and you will have to return to your seat. Our first speaker to come forward is Robert Lauten, R-O-B-E-R-T-L-A-U-T-E-N. Also come forward and take a seat, please. Zamora Corpena, X-I-O-M-A-R-A-C-O-R-P-E-N-A. Betty Robinson, and Daryl Robinson. Mr. Lauten, you may proceed.
Okay, great. If the applicant for a driver's license has trouble qualifying for any of the documents on your list, I would suggest that the DMV should use income tax returns for applicant identity. If the driver license applicant doesn't have a taxpayer identification number, then they should apply for one today. The IRS has requirements for taxpayer identification numbers. The IRS has procedures for verifying the documents. I think a taxpayer identification number or our income tax returns should suffice for identification.
Thank you. Zamora Corpena, and if I have said and spelled your name incorrectly, please pronounce your name now and spell it for us.
Xiomara Corpeño, Xiomara, last name Corpeno.
Thank you.
My name is Xiomara Corpeño, and I represent the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights of Los Angeles. We did a series of forums across the state speaking to our members about the driver's license regulations and recommendations that came from our group in Porterville, which is 1 hour north of Bakersfield. They want to make sure that the DMV coordinates with the Mexican and other consulates as much as possible. A lot of them had the documents, but they were expired, and it's very hard for them to come to Los Angeles or to the Bay Area to be able to get their documents renewed in a timely basis, and so they would like to see a partnership with DMV so that people who live in these outside areas have that support. The second piece that they brought us to our attention is that here in California, we have 200,000 people from indigenous pueblos across the Americas, and they include Maya, Nahua, Mixtec, Perupecha, and other, and includes languages Zapoteco, Mixteco, Triqui, Quiche, and other languages. And so those populations, a lot of times they come from rural parts in their countries, and so they don't have a birth certificate or a lot of identifying documents. And so we asked the DMV to take that in consideration. Many of them will have to use option number 4 in order to prove their identity, but that also means that the DMV has to invest in qualified interpreters for these communities so that they can be able to take, the investigators need to speak their language. Thank you.
Thank you. Betty Robinson.
Hello.
Good morning.
I am just a concerned citizen, and I feel that proving one's identity for a driver's license should be as stringent as possible related to reasons of security. This documentation should meet the standards that American citizens have to meet when we apply for a driver's license. And apparently the matricula consular ID card doesn't seem to be acceptable to the Department of Justice and the FBI related to what documents they see that apparently are not vetted, these documents that they present to get this card. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. One thing I'm going to point out, there are certain documents that are in the regulations that are specifically required to be in the regulations by the statute, and one of them is the matricula consular card. We're doing everything with councils to find a process to be able to verify those documents, but I just want you to know there are some specific things that are required by statute to be in the regulations, and as I mentioned earlier, we do not have the ability in a regulation to retract the scope of what is allowed by the statute. Our next speaker is Darrell Robinson, D-A-R-R-E-L-L, Robinson, R-O-B-I-N-S-O-N. Yes, you may. If we could have come forward Ruben Barron, R-U-B-E-N, B-A-R-R-O-N, Tara Slavin, T-E-R-R-A-S-L-A-V-I-N, Francisco Moreno, F-R-A-N-C-I-S-C-O-M-O-R-E-N-O, and Sheila Byars, B-Y-A-R-S. Thank you. Mr. Barron.
Good morning. My name is Ruben Barron, member of Los Amigos of Orange County, a nonprofit organization, retired school superintendent, Vietnam veteran, and volunteer with the Catholic Diocese of Orange County. I am concerned with many of the adult men who live in the shadows who will find it difficult to prove residency and identity. Their lives revolve around work. They get paid in cash when they get paid. All of their interactions, when they go to the grocery stores, if they happen to go to the doctors, receive any kind of service, it's always in cash. One of the things they do is they do attend church. Many of them attend church. And so I am just wondering and interested in your consideration, Department of Motor Vehicle Department, considering some kind of an ID from a church or a letter to show identification or residency. Thank you.
Thank you. Tara Slavin?
Good morning. My name's Tara Slavin. I'm the Deputy Director of Policy and Community Building at the Los Angeles LGBT Center. The center is the largest LGBT provider in the world with about 40,000 client visits a month, many from LGBT immigrants. Overall, we are encouraged by the proposed regulations and the initial steps DMV has taken to ensure that all California residents will have access to driver's license. I'm here today to ask that the DMV take additional steps to issue specific guidance as part of the release of these new regulations to ensure that AB 60 will be implemented in a non-discriminatory manner that is accessible to the transgender community. When an individual's gender presentation does not match the gender marker on their commonly used identifications, such as a driver's license, it often exposes the person as transgender and increases the risk of violence. This is particularly true for our immigrant populations. This is why we're requesting the following two items be addressed, specifically as the part of the release of these regulations. The DMV shall make clear that current name and gender change policies shall apply as under current regulations, and also that as part of the rollout of these regulations that there should be guidance and training on working with California's transgender population, which includes training DMV personnel that previously issued identity documents. The names and photographs on those identity documents may not reflect or match the current name and/or gender identity of transgender driver's license applicants. Doing so will minimize the barriers and ultimately reduce the risk of discrimination and violence against our communities. I'd also just like to momentarily also put our word of encouragement for Chiola's comments, especially around the use of expired passports and combining identity documents 2 and 3 and ensuring privacy. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Sheila Byers?
Good morning. My name is Sheila Byers, and I'm representing SEIU Local 1000. And we are working with all the community groups to make sure that this transition goes as smoothly as possible. We are 100% behind AB 60, so we want everyone to know that as far as DMV is concerned, SEIU Local 1000, we support this.
Thank you. Patricia Salazar? S-A-L-A-Z-A-R. Also come forward, please. Rita Medina, R-I-T-A-M-E-D-I-N-A, have a seat. Lai Ku, that's L-Y-K-O-U. Lori Masonis, L-O-R-E-E-M-A-S-O-N-I-S. Please have a seat in the front row. Are you Patricia Salazar?
Sí. Sí.
Yes.
Thank you.
Patricia Salazar, soy promotora de COFEM.
My name is Patricia Salazar, and I'm a promoter for COFEM.
Y nosotros recomendamos que la privacidad se mantenga, que realmente se lleve a cabo y que el costo no aumente.
What we recommend is the privacy issue and that the cost should not be increased.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Rita Medina?
Thank you. So Rita Medina, and I'm with Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights of Los Angeles, CHIRLA, thanking the DMV once again for having this opportunity. So we've already submitted our comments in writing, but just to echo some of the points that we've submitted. So we really feel that the DMV should look in terms of the options 1 through 3 at either accepting a consular card or an ID of some sort, or a passport. And just one of the reasons for that is that so many of our folks who've been here for such a long time either don't have one or the other. And so sometimes asking for both in combination will put a strain on the individual, and especially with the rising cost of such documents and the time that they might be waiting to obtain such documents. We are also a bit concerned about option 4. We're very, very excited to see that option be present in the regulations, but would like a little bit more detail and would like the DMV to be a bit more public about what that process looks like for our community, who the investigators are, will the folks get to keep their documents after they've submitted them for questions? What are those questions going to be? And also clarification around the payment of $33. Does that come at the beginning of the process? And we recommend that it come at the end of the process once the person's identity has been verified, so that people aren't paying $33 multiple times. We also just encourage the DMV to take a look at expanding the document list for option 4 to also include the documents of the children. So if I have medical records for my child with my name on it, the baptism certificate that says I am the parent of this child, if the DMV can consider using those documents, official school records, military IDs from the person's home country. And also our membership really wants to see that expired licenses, as many hold expired California licenses, are implemented into the regulations the best that they can be. They want to be able to use them perhaps for option 1, depending on the information that's in their system. But we thank you for that.
Thank you. Laiku?
Yes, hi, my name is Lee Koo, and I'm here as a concerned citizen. I read over your document, and I know that this is a difficult process for many people, but as a naturalized citizen, we had to jump through hoops to get to where we are today. And I feel that with each increasing changes in our laws, we will have no standards after this point. What is the point of having a driver's license? I think it should just be open to anybody who wants one at any age that want it. Because this is how I feel as a citizen, that our laws no longer are valid because of all these changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Masonis?
That's close enough. It's Lori Masonis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Basically, my strong point is the kind of documentation that the DMV wants seems very like unreliable sources of documents. And quite frankly, I'm a California native. I don't remember when I got my driver's license what kind of ID I had to have. But I believe there should be no special privileges for any special group. Everyone should be treated the same. Everyone needs that same kind of document. That's my comment for today. Thank you.
Thank you. The next people to come, I'm sorry? Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Francisco. Please come forward. This is Francisco Moreno.
Yes, Francisco Moreno with COFEM, Council of Mexican Federations. Thank you for having this assembly. Our concerns about the documentation is that on option number 1, sir, is the Mexican electoral card. And to tell you the truth, only few have available that card because it's only available in Mexico, not for the last 15 years or more has been available here in the United States. Never, to tell you the truth. Option number 2 requests 2 documents, passport and matricula consular, and those documents are kind of expensive, kind of $150 for both, and we think that it's too much. And also, the birth certificates has no pictures in any country, as I know. Are those just papers? And also, the consulates has not the workforce power to provide birth certificates for our people or apostille. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Kathy Chee, C-H-E-E. I'd like to also have come forward Benjamin Wood, W-O-O-D. Florencia Lopez, that's F-L-O-R-E-N-C-I-A, Lopez, L-O-P-E-Z. Carol Slapfer, S-C-H-L-A-E-P-F-E-R, and James Baca, B-A-C-A. If Kathy Chi can come forward to the microphone. Nope. All right, we're going to move to the next person, Benjamin Wood. Oh, I'm sorry, are you Kathy Chi?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Kathy Chi. I'm not. I don't know much about this. What's going on around me, so I'm just going to say it's not. It's not. I'm so much against giving license to some people don't live here.
Okay,
should be
I
going that
appreciate your
regular.
comment, but as I said in my opening statement, this isn't about whether or not we will issue the licenses. The law requires us to do so. So do you have any other comments specific to the regulations? Thank you. Benjamin Wood?
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Benjamin Wood. I'm an organizer with the Pomona Economic Opportunity Center. We organize day laborers in Pomona and also in Rancho Cucamonga, Riverside, San Bernardino, working with the immigrant community. And as was mentioned earlier, identity documents are sometimes inaccessible to the members of our community. So one of the things that we do is we issue this Worker Center ID. We've mentioned it in previous hearings. We were a little bit disappointed not to see it among the list of documents that were acceptable for ID. We take a lot of care in issuing these. We do verify that the person indeed lives at that address, and this is something that we renew every year. So we would just like to request respectfully once again that you consider including a Worker Center ID as a document that can establish identity or residency, or even if you would just consider using it as a backup document to prove something that another document is showing. We would greatly appreciate that.
Thank you. That's something that can be used in the secondary review process, but we appreciate your comment.
Thank you.
Florencia Lopez?
Muy buenos días, honorable representante del Departamento de Vehículos. Mi nombre es Florencia López y soy de la organización COFEN, Consejo de Federación Mexicana en Norteamérica. Primero déjenme felicitar. Okay.
Yeah, very good morning, honorable members and representatives of DMV.
Can you move a little closer to the
My name is
microphone?
Florencia López. My name is Florencia López, and I am from COFEM.
Sí. Primero dejen decirles que les doy las gracias porque ustedes están poniendo mucha de su tiempo, de su dedicación a tratar de que este proceso sea más fácil para las personas que van a solicitar esta licencia.
First, I'd like to thank you because you're putting a lot of effort and time, into making this an easier process for people who will be requesting and applying for these licenses.
Es muy importante este proceso porque necesita la gente que no tiene licencia de manejar tener esta licencia porque sean los caminos más seguros para las familias de California.
This process is very important because it is necessary for these people who will be applying to have licenses so that roadways can be safer for California families.
Y yo apreciaré mucho que ustedes tomen en consideración la documentación que ellos representen, porque como dijo ahorita una otra persona, muchos no tienen mucha documentación cómo representarse y es desafortunadamente muy importante este proceso.
And I would be very grateful that you take into consideration the information, the documentation that people would be presenting. Unfortunately, many people do not have the documentation that they would need to identify themselves during this process.
Y también déjenme decirles que es muy importante que esta documentación que se está hablando se escriba muy clara, que sea muy clara, muy justo lo que se haga para estas personas.
And it's also very important that the information being provided be very clear, that it be very clear and that it would be fair for these people.
Sí, gracias.
Thank you.
Muy amables, gracias.
Carol Schlapfer? Schlafer, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Carol Schlafer, and I also am from Pomona, California. We have a lot of illegal driving there. I would like very much to address the matricula consular card. It's been denounced by the FBI as a viable source of identification, strictly because of probably the ease of attaining one, very low cost, right outside the door here probably. There are many, many other means of identifying people who have, do not have the usual forms of identity, but the matricular card is not one of them.
Okay, I'm going to cut you off right there because I have mentioned that we are required by law to adopt regulations that are consistent with the enabling statute. Vehicle Code Section 12801.9C says that our regulations shall accept various types of documentation for these purposes, including but not limited to a valid, unexpired consular identification card issued by a consulate from the applicant's country of citizenship. I appreciate your comment, but the statute requires it.
Even though the FBI does not?
The statute requires it. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right, I still have time.
Okay, please, she still have time to speak.
All
Go
right.
right ahead, please. Go
Yes,
ahead, you can
I still
continue.
have time. I would like to, your regulations are very clear, but your process hasn't been clear. Is there any way to address that today?
I don't understand what you mean by our process is not clear.
Well, the regulations, we're talking about ID here today. Is there
That's
any way
correct.
of talking about, once the ID is satisfied, is there a way of talking about the process? Like tests or, driving tests?
The
physical
law
tests?
requires that anyone applying for a license would have to meet the other requirements that are required by law. So tests and drive tests and all of those things
Okay.
are the other qualifications for obtaining a license.
Okay,
They're
thank
not addressed in the regulations because they are spoken to in statute.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
James Baca.
My name is James Baca. No relation to Lee Baca. I do remember how I got my driver's license. I had to present a birth certificate. I used to teach English to homeless Hispanics, and we had many discussions about documentations. And one of the words that always came up was chueco, which means crooked or false. Now, how are you going to detect a chueco card, let's say, for example, a Social Security card, and they bring their Social Security card to the DMV? How are you going to detect that's a true documentation?
We already have a process in place. All Social Security account numbers are verified directly with the Social Security Administration. The regulations set forth standards for the types of documents that have to be submitted. They have to have certain security features, and we will be having processes to verify documents with issuing agencies. So we are concerned about that as well, but we have procedures in place. Thank you.
Okay, but then how, anybody can present a document and put a name to that document. It seems to me it's impossible to identify the person and the document together. How's that gonna, how can, anybody can do that. Anybody can present a documentation to the DMV and say, well, yeah, I'm this person, but how can you prove the documentation and the person that is true?
And as I mentioned, that's why the regulations require the document to meet certain secure features, as well as we will have mechanisms to verify documents with issuing agencies. Thank you for your comment. Our next speaker is Denise, it looks like Alberti, A-L-I-B-E-R-T-I. Please come forward. I have just an initial, M. It looks like M. Mick something. I can't tell what the rest of that is. So when you come forward, please make sure you spell your name. Maria Grijalva, please have a seat. And Lillian Saldana, S-A-L-D-A-N-A. Thank you. This should be Denise Aliberti. Thank you.
Thank you. The purpose of me attending this meeting today is to express my deepest concern over the documentation requirements for the driver's license for the illegals in our state of California. I find it ridiculous and suspicious of the list of acceptable documents that are being considered as valid enough to ensure one's identity for illegals. There is no reason why illegals cannot prove their identity, as been stated before. Many of them have documentation at Catholic Church at the area of their origin that can certify their birth, which I strongly suggest from there that they take it to the American Embassy and be certified through there. No one, and I should stress that no one should be able to use any other documents to provide their identity unless they use a valid government-approved ID, such as a valid passport from country of origin, certified birth certificate, or H-1 visa. If they do not or are not able to prove acceptable valid ID of whom they are, then they should be referred back to the country of origin to process proper paperwork. This includes consular ID cards, which you discussed. I'm here to tell you that they can be purchased down in Santa Ana for $20. Our own FBI does not agree with using that card. To allow the list of documents to proceed is ignorant at best and deceitful at most. Those with through all the years of working with the public in the financial business, I cannot begin to tell you the amount of stolen identities, falsified U.S. government documents, and fraud that I have seen with my own eyes. Everyone knows that by allowing this process to pass, it will only get worse, and the illegals know our system and will abuse it every chance they can get. The purchase, I have a right to speak.
Excuse me.
The purpose
Do
of-
not interrupt the speaker. If you interrupt the speaker, I will have you removed from the room. Thank you.
The purpose of them having a driver's license and purchasing insurance is a fraudulent statement. There's a black market underground, I happen to know it very well, that is alive and well and will be used to get fake driver's licenses, bypassing all laws. Our own Fullerton DMV has been found guilty of supplying fake driver's licenses to illegals, along with criminals and underage teenagers to get into bars. This can be verified through the SEC and FBI have personal acknowledgement of this. You are also discriminating against the sight impaired. It is not enough difference on the face of the proposed illegal driver's license in U.S. citizens.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, can you state your full name and spell it for us, please?
Mike McGetrick, M-C-G-E-T-R-I-C-K. I'm a concerned citizen. I just want to say that I think this is going to cause a problem with illegal identification and identity fraud. This is just opening up doors for more criminal activity, and I don't think you're going to be capable of coping with it.
Okay, sir, as I said in my opening comments, this is the law. It is in effect. We have a statutory obligation to enforce the provisions of the law that have been validly enacted.
I don't think you're going to be able to do that.
I understand your comments, but we're not accepting any further comments like that. Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Maria Grijalva. I'm here to speak.
Maria, can you please spell your last name?
Grijalva. As a former regulations analyst, I'm here to say that I agree with you that we're here to follow the law. I think the law, as you know, is very clear, and we're supposed to write regulations that are very clear, in very clear terms. As you know, we are required to write a full comprehensive list of the documents. We are not allowed to write such things as Section 1604B or 16.08B, which says that the department will at a later time publish a list of undefined documents. By law, we are required. There's no way OAL will allow us.
I'm sure you will cite to us the authority that you're basing that on in your written comments to us. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, so I got another minute and 7 seconds. And so the second thing is that all those security measures are not in regulation or are not being proposed by the department, but it's obvious that the community would like you to add language that is secure for the consumers or for the drivers also.
I don't understand what you mean by that.
In other words, you should add some type of language, and that's not what I'm here for, but some specific language that protects the driver, that is going to be giving out information. In other words, they're going to be disclosing their information. I think the security concern from the immigration communities is that this information is going to law enforcement officials.
Can you cite to me any provision of law that allows the department not to share information with law enforcement officials?
Well, only in certain cases they may, and only in certain cases. Yeah, okay. So anyway, so given that, I really appreciate the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Lillian Saldana?
Hi, thank you for having me today. My name is Lilian Saldana, and I just wanted to say that in section 1610 for section A or C, the documents, I'm not too sure about the law, but as far as I've seen, you don't specify how old they have to be. I mean, is it 6 months old that they will be acceptable, 1 or 2 weeks old in regards to bills and things like that? And in section B, I'd suggest to having the DMV to be open to documents and situations in regards to separate families, because you do have a lot of moms carrying their children, and the dad has the income, so the mom is just starting to provide for their family, and without a car, it is very difficult to have to go to different places. The bus is very limiting if you come from the Inland Empire. So thank you for having me the time, and we are here only to drive, not commit any crimes, so thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is, it looks like Neidy DeLeon, Neidydeleon. Come forward. Also, Jose Pineda, Pineda, Olga Cordero, Cordero, and Wes Parker, Parker. The last three, just please take a seat in the front row. Go right ahead.
My name is Neidy DeLeon, and I am a member of CHIRLA. And as you know, the language barrier has always been a difficult challenge among our community. And I believe that the DMV should be flexible and understanding to that and provide more Hispanic as well as Asian dialects to the community to make them feel welcome. And it's also important for our community to understand what exactly they are signing off on, and also to understand the tests. And along with that, I would like to say that I think that DMV personnel should undergo special training so that they don't intimidate immigrants and know how to respect their privacy.
Thank you. Jose Pineda, Pineda. Okay, we'll move on. Olga Cordero, Cordero.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Olga Cordero, vengo del Valle y estoy muy agradecida con el señor Browne por haber firmado la ley.
Good afternoon. My name is Olga Cordero, and I'm coming from the Valley, and I'm very grateful that Governor Brown signed that into law.
Porque yo dependo mucho de mi vehículo para llevarle la alimentación a mis hijos. Tengo 4 ciudadanos.
I depend on my vehicle to take food to my children. I have 4 citizens.
Todos son mayores de edad y ya votan también.
They're all of legal age, and they also vote.
Y pienso yo que con papeles o sin papeles, con licencia o sin licencia, todos tenemos el mismo derecho como humanos, el llevarles y proveerle comida a los hijos.
And I think with papers or no papers, license or with a license, we all are humans. We need to provide food for our children.
Porque todos tenemos la misma necesidad y dependemos mucho del vehículo para las enfermedades, los trabajos y muchas emergencias más. No es un lujo lo que queremos, sino un privilegio.
Because we rely heavily on our vehicle for whatever illnesses, work, or what other emergency. This is not a luxury, it's a privilege.
Okay, we need to understand, does she have any comments specific to the regulations that we have proposed?
Sí, solamente que sean bien conscientes con lo que van a pedir, porque hay muchas personas que no tienen la documentación que muchas personas exigen. El tener un acta de nacimiento no es tan fácil conseguir, porque yo no puedo tener otra persona con mi nombre.
Yes, I just want you to be aware of the documents that are required to get a birth certificate is not an easy thing to acquire. I can't get one under somebody else's name.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wes Parker?
Yeah, Wes Parker, president of European Immigrant Rights, and I'm very concerned about this. These are all nonsensical forms of ID, a boat certificate, a title. Someone could have got this years ago, moved out of state, not even living in the state, and used this to provide for it. It's all nonsensical. Also, these are very insecure forms of ID. This will allow a terrorist who entered this country illegally to now legally drive to their act of terrorism, commit their act of terrorism, and then legally drive away. This
Sir,
puts us all, what?
You're incorrect. Those are documents to establish residency. Those are not documents to establish identity. Thank you. Our next speaker is Myra Sixtos, S-I-X-T-O-S. Also, please come forward, Elena Reyes, R-E-Y-E-S, Juan Vela, V-E-L-A, and Tazleen, I think that's Aziam, A-Z-I-A-M. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. My name is Myra Sixtos, and I'm an intern in the summer program, Wise Up, working with Chirla. Today, I'd just like to leave the message, as Chirla, we'd like if the DMV could do the consideration in expanding the list of documents of identification. Not necessarily do we want them to accept all our documents, but we would like it if it could be some sort, if they could understand that some people have left their country of origin, coming here, leaving behind their identity, or it might be even hard for them to ask for their documents to be sent. So if you could just consider that, that'd be great. I'd also like to reassert where they were talking about transgenders. I actually would like it if you guys would allow that and would permit them to not have their, how would I say this, their privacy interfere or anything like that. That's all for today. Thank you, and thank you for listening.
Thank you. Elena Reyes?
Hello, my name is Elena Reyes, and I am a 15-year-old that comes with CHIRTA. I would just like to request for the DMV to take the expired passports into consideration for identity.
Thank you. Juan Vela?
Introduction.
Oh, okay.
Me llamo Juan Vela, estoy aquí representando a un grupo de Chirla. Entiendo el miedo que tienen las personas. Yo tengo 30 años manejando, pero me siento más seguro si veo a una persona ya con su licencia de manejar y sé que va a tener aseguranza y no tiene ninguna razón por la que correr. So,
Yes, my name is Juan Vela, J-U-N-V-E-L-A. I'm from Chirla. I've been driving for 30 years. I understand the fear that people have, but I would feel safer if I see that a person is driving with a license and the person has no reason to flee, to run.
también esas personas van a dejar su huella su huella digital. Y yo creo que eso no se puede falsificar.
Also, these people are going to leave their thumbprint, so I don't think that's something that you can forge.
Y por último, pediría un poco más de sensibilidad para la gente transgénero, que a veces llegan un hombre con identificación de hombre, pero vestido como mujer, y le dan mucha discriminación o lo hacen que se quite el maquillaje, y es un abuso realmente para esta comunidad.
And I would also request more sensitivity towards transgender individuals. Sometimes you have a male dressed as a female, and he's made to remove his makeup and dress as a man, and it's discrimination against that person.
Es todo. Gracias por dejarme hablar.
Thank
That's
you.
all. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Tazleen? And could you pronounce your last name correctly and spell it for me as well?
My name is Tazeen Nizam, and I'm a resident of San Diego County. We just drove up this morning to speak with you. And I would like to point out some residency requirements that I think are hard for people to obtain. Most undocumented people are living under the radar base, so to speak. They get paid in cash, so it's very difficult for them to prove pay stubs or bank records or anything of that sort. That's why it's difficult for them. In my opinion, an I-9 card, which they probably acquired while entering the country, should be one of the documents allowed as a residency requirement. School records are allowed, I understand, but some people didn't go to school here. Maybe their children's school record with the parent listed is one of the required documents. And if someone who has attained a previous driver's license and they have fallen out of status and that's why couldn't continue with their driver's license should be allowed to possibly keep the same driver's license number and use that as their proof of residency rather than having to prove the residency all over again.
Thank you. My next speaker is, I'm going to call up Samuel Han, H-A-N. Also, that should be waiting here in the front row, Caroline Thies, Aird, I guess that's Theiss-AIRD, Gloria Cruz, C-R-U-Z, and Alpolino, A-L-P-O-L-I-N-O, Morales, M-O-R-A-L-E-S. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Samuel Hahn. I'm here representing Assemblyman Don Wagner, who is a California State Assemblyman from Central Orange County. First, I want to thank you for taking our comments today. As you can see, there are many concerned citizens about the bill, but we're talking about something else today. I have a statement here on behalf of Assemblyman Don Wagner, which I will now read. The legislature made a mistake when it passed AB 60. I urge the DMV not to compound that mistake.
Excuse me. In my introductory comment, I mentioned that we would not be accepting comments imploring us not to implement a law that it's already been passed.
And that's not what I'm going to, if you allow me to continue my statement.
All right, but if it's on the same line, then I'm going to ask you to take a seat, but go ahead.
I urge the DMV not to compound that mistake with an ill-considered design for driver's license for undocumented motorists. The trouble finding an acceptable design for these special licenses was predictable and warned prior to the passage of AB 60. No one should be surprised that the design is controversial. Licenses serve as a key identification document for virtually all purposes in addition to driving. Most obviously, the federal government looks to them for national security purposes in protecting our airports and air travel.
Okay.
The need for clear designation on the license of undocumented status
I
conflicts.
mentioned in my opening comments that we weren't going to accept comments on the marking or the design of the card because it's already set forth by the statute. Do you have anything additional to add?
Yes. I'd just like to ensure that, or make sure that the statement that I was going to read was that the Assemblyman Wagner would like to go on public record to make sure that we are obviously focused on the national security concerns about this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have Caroline.
Thies-Aird, you had it
Thank
perfect,
you.
which doesn't happen often. Yeah, my name is
Well,
Caroline.
with a name like Soublé, you can understand.
There you go, I can. So I'm from North San Diego County, and I'm here today to represent a lot of people who can't go past that checkpoint, who wish that they could be here testifying today and aren't able to. I'm part of the North County Immigration Task Force. And so a couple things I just wanted to mention is that in our area, we have a lot of issues with, for instance, in the city of Escondido, which is in North San Diego County, ICE has 11 officers housed in the Escondido Police Department. So there's a lot of concern and a lot of fear about that going back and forth. So it would be very helpful if you could add something to the vehicle code to ensure that police officers treat everybody with a driver's license the same, you know, and don't respond by calling ICE.
That's something that we cannot do by regulation, so if that's something that you would like to see happen, you need to bring that
Okay.
up with the legislature.
Okay, so in that case, just treating everybody equally the same under the law.
There are two provisions in AB 60 that deal with discrimination and compliance with the Unruh Civil Rights Act, so that's already in the law.
Wonderful. And then the other thing would be to allow maybe proof of auto insurance or child school records with the parent on there, because I think for so many people, I know a lot of moms who are at home with their kids. They've been here for 20 years or 30 years, and they don't have necessarily something to identify them. And then the one other thing would be just to say that anything that really stands out that identifies someone as undocumented in a big way is dangerous to them, because I've seen people get beaten by neighbors, you know, and harassed for being undocumented, and that's still the situation. So if we could just keep it low-key, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Gloria Cruz?
Hi, my name is Gloria Cruz, and I'm a resident of San Diego County. I'm here representing the community of San Diego. I'm here to recommend to the Department of Motor Vehicles to change the requirements of a translation of birth certificate by consulate of origin. We in the county of San Diego do not have capacity to be able to deliver this requirement. We lack consulates in our city that represent the undocumented population. For some communities, they will have to drive up to Los Angeles, which is impossible for many of our county residents, since a trip to Los Angeles based on the 5 freeway checkpoint. This impossible connection to the consulates of origin will result in San Diego County to continue to have residents without a license, therefore continuing to have drivers on the road without the proper knowledge of our traffic regulations. San Diego needs drivers on the road that are well-versed on our traffic laws. Please accept translation by a certified translation service. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to point out, the regulations don't talk about translating birth certificates. It only speaks to what the statute requires, which is a translated marriage license or divorce decree, a foreign federal electoral photo card, or a foreign driver's license. So it doesn't, our regulations don't speak to birth certificates being translated. It only speaks to those 3 documents. Thank you.
My name is Apolonio Morales, Apolonio. I also have a name with, problem with my name. But really, I'm here to talk about one of the main things that we've been advocating here in Los Angeles is for municipal ID. And there are cities across the state that have also had their passage of a municipal ID, including San Francisco, Richmond, California, Oakland, California. Here in LA, we're doing our part to ensure that happens as well as CHIRLA. We also want to make sure that those types of identifications that do have very significant protections in terms of security would be allowed in option 4. There's a lot of, it's a way to bring folks out of the shadows and make sure that they're included. It's a way that's already verified by the city which they reside in, and it would be a 2-for-1, so you can also prove identity that way.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Omar Ruiz, R-U-I-Z. Also come forward, please, Diana Ramos, R-A-M-O-S, Maria Galvan, G-A-L-V-A-N, and Martha Escadon, E-S-C-A-D-O-N. At the microphone should be Mr. Ruiz.
Sí. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Omar Ruiz. La cuestión ahorita es hablar de una identificación segura para la gente que no tenemos licencia de conducir.
Good afternoon. My name is Omar Ruiz, and the issue right now is to speak about identification for people who have no driver's license and to have a secure identification.
Nosotros como gente que no tenemos una licencia también pagamos una aseguranza para nuestros vehículos. ¿Por qué no adoptar a este tipo de aseguradoras que nos den la identificación? Así el Estado ahorraría un dinero para que nosotros se nos dé una identificación confiable.
As people who drive, we also have insurance, and my suggestion is why not adopt or include these insurance companies and allow them to issue an insurance, an identification that would be reliable.
Así podríamos tener dos identificaciones, la de la aseguradora y un pasaporte que se nos diera.
And that would also save the state a lot of money. And this way, we could have 2 types of identification, the one issued by the insurance company and a sort of passport that would be issued.
Y también dejaría de preocuparse la gente que aquella que no confía en nosotros porque no tenemos una identificación, realmente sería más confiable y realmente sería adoptable, que muchas veces necesitan de nosotros sin una identificación.
And this would also help to lessen people's fears, people who don't trust us, and that would help to make it easier for us to get an identification, for those of us who are not able to do so.
Les pediría de favor que consideraran realmente esta petición de las aseguranzas. Realmente, les vuelvo a repetir, sería un ahorro para el Estado y una conveniencia para nosotros como identificación y un pasaporte.
And once again, I request that you consider this suggestion regarding the ID by the insurance company. It would be it would bring savings to the state. It would be an identification for us, and it would be a sort of a passport.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Good morning. My name is Diana Ramos. I'm here with the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights of Los Angeles. And today, I'm here to represent also my family, who is immigrant, and to share a part of my story as well. When I was in 4th grade, my father was driving me to school. He did not have a license. He was stopped by the police, and unfortunately, for the lack of not having a license, he was not able to take me to school that day. And this is something that happens every day. So I applaud Governor Brown's signing of the driver's license, but I would also like for millions of families to benefit from this driver's license who has already been signed. And my proposed, what I propose is that a lot of the residency requirements that the undocumented community be able to supply identification cards that are given through organizations like CHIRLA, union cards, or as mentioned earlier, worker center cards to identify their residency, but also to identify themselves. I would also like to see for mothers who sometimes do not work, but they do drive because they have to take their children to school, they have to shop for food, for them to be able to prove residency through their children's personal records, through school records, through medical records, since I know one of the requirements here that was listed, one of the regulations said providing rent bills, rent receipts, but not all families, not all members of the families have a rent receipt that states their residency in that home here in California. So if more of these medical records or school records from their children would be able to be accepted.
Thank you. Are you Maria Galvan?
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Morning. Thanks for having us today. And we would like to use as other proof identity, passport, driver license of our country, even when these documents are expired. Most of adults going to college, they provide us a school ID. We can use this kind of ID to showing bills of water, phones, cable to support of identity will be helpful. And lastly, we like that design don't change because we pay taxes like as citizens, and we would like to have the same treatment. Thank you.
Thank you. This should be Martha Escadon?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good morning. I'm here, actually, I'm Marta Escandon. I'm a volunteer and parishioner of St. Michael Parish in South Los Angeles. And echoing what others have already said, as a homemaker, we don't get a membership card or a pay stub. And I would like to ask that you please add on the section 1610 under D that you allow a parish membership card, because there is something that we do, if not weekly, on a daily basis. We belong to our parish, and many of the moms here and other family members can have their registration proof to that effect, that they have been in that residency for over 10, 20 years. So I'd like that you take that into consideration, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker to call forward is Rosa Flores, Flores. Also, please come forward, Julio Giron, Giron, Esther Kim, Kim, and Anthony Ng, Ng. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rosa Flores, and I am here representing many members of my community that couldn't be here today. I live in North County, San Diego, and therefore I'm here representing San Diego. And while I applaud the passage of AB 60, I would like to ask that the list of documents that make an applicant eligible for secondary review be expanded by adding the following documents: a baptismal certificate, a driver's license from another state, a federally recognized tribal enrollment card or U.S. Bureau of Indian Affairs ID card, and documents related to a child that lists the applicant as a parent, like a California public or private school enrollment document, adoption, or birth certificates of the children. Thank you.
Thank you. Next should be Julio Giron.
Yes, Julio Quiron, founder and director of Legal Latino Force. I'm deeply concerned as a naturalized United States citizen, proud to be Latino, but thinking different, than the passport of the individual who is illegally in the country should be the only document. Why? Diplomatic delegations from those countries have no excuse to expedite those documents. It should be the only requirement for the reason to avoid confusion. And the comment to, I don't understand why, sir, your department is hiding the situation of not providing what the Department of Homeland Security is requiring, which is a different design with a mark or with the specifics that is not a federal document and with a different color. We do not understand why is the DMV with the legislators in Sacramento are hiding something. It shouldn't be that way. Remember 9/11? That is the main concern. Many, many documents, as you stipulated that the statute requires for that, we create confusion. We have DMV employees who are not capable to analyze documents from United States citizens. How are they going to be trained to accept so many different documents? Mr. Representative of the DMV, take the consideration to take only the passport of that citizen or an illegal alien.
As I mentioned earlier, we do not have a capacity of detracting from the scope of a statute, and since the statute specifies certain documents that we will accept them as required by statute. Do you have anything further to add?
You are consuming my time, sir, with all my respect. How can you explain and give the guarantee to the California citizens that you are going to, the chief of DMV,
Thank you very much.
to examine those documents? Could you explain, sir?
Our next speaker is Esther Kim.
Hi, thanks for hosting this public hearing today. My name is Esther Kim, and I'm here on behalf of the Korean Resource Center. We're in Los Angeles and Northern Orange County. I'm also here on behalf of the Asian Pacific Islander community at large in California. I just have a couple of identity requirement suggestions. The first one is as pertains to option 2. We think that it's important not to require both the consular ID and the valid foreign passport. As we're aware, only 2 API consulates provide consular IDs to their nationals, which is Pakistan and South Korea. Passport renewals are also incredibly expensive and inaccessible to a lot of our community members. On top of that, we think that it's important to accept expired passports with an issue date of 1986 or later for option 3. Over 3.1 million Asian Americans in California, or 59% of the community, are foreign-born. Also, those who don't have access to their consular IDs often don't have access to renewing passports, especially Korean American males with outstanding military requirements. Thanks.
Thank you. Anthony Ng.
Hi, good morning. My name is Anthony Nong. I'm with Asian Americans Advancing Justice Los Angeles. We're a civil rights organization in LA as well as Orange County. I want to talk about the language access piece of AB 60, that we encourage DMV to incorporate language accessibility in every step of the process, whether it's through the outreach, staffing, making sure that you have bicultural and multilingual staff to make sure that it's accessible to immigrant populations, and making sure that the consistency in translations, that it's high quality, and that if, for example, I noticed that folks can take their exams in Thai, but it's not available, the booklet is not available in Thai, or the audio piece is not available in Thai. So making sure that if you're saying it's available in a certain language and to take the exam, that folks are able to study in that exam, and as well have it in audio in that particular language as well, to make sure that folks will have access to the actual exam. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Connie Choi, C-H-O-I. Also come forward, please. Sean Tan, T-A-N. Cynthia, oh God, Anderson Baker, or Barker. And Jessica Calix, C-A-L-I-X. And this should be Connie Choi.
I'm a little short, so I'm going to lower this. Hi, everybody. My name is Connie Choi. I'm also with Asian Americans Advancing Justice. And initially, I'd like to lend our support to the prior suggestions of streamlining options 2 and 3 to really expand the number of acceptable documentation. As it stands, we feel like a lot of API specifically will be automatically relegated to the secondary process, and so we really highly encourage that to happen. We also lend our support to having certified translations of foreign birth certificates being accepted, being not just done by the consulate, but also accepting certified translations that are outside of the consulate. And then lastly, we did get a lot of questions about the secondary review process. And so it'd be wonderful to get some further protocols that talk about the anticipated processing times for secondary review inspections, the number of investigators that the DMV intends to hire, the draft rubric for approval once an applicant is placed into secondary review, a list of potential interview questions, an estimated time amount for the interview, and what the appeals process looks like, if any. And we also encourage the DMV to automatically schedule secondary inspection times. As the regulations currently stand, I understand that the applicant would have to follow up directly with the DMV, and so we believe that that will actually make the process more efficient.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sean Tan. I'm a current UC Berkeley student as well as a member of the Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights of Los Angeles. I come here to represent a lot of the immigrant youth who are concerned about their parents, as well as representing my own parents who will benefit from AB 60. I just want to say to the committee to be more flexible and to expand the kind of documents that are allowed to prove residency. I remember when I was going into college for the first time, it was very difficult going from Los Angeles to Berkeley with my parents not being able to drive me there. So it'll make it easier for both our parents and also the DMV to have this process facilitated with the kind of documents to expand the kind of documents that they require. Thank you.
Thank you. Could you spell your last name for me? I know I butchered it badly. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
My
Yeah.
name is Cynthia Anderson Barker,
Thank you,
B-A-R-K-E-R, pretty simple. I'm an attorney with the National Lawyers Guild, and for the past 5 years, we've been running free legal clinics for individuals who have been stopped and cited for driving unlicensed. So in the course of those interviews, we ask for all the documentation they have to show us who they are when we go and try to get their cars returned by the local law enforcement. And 99% of all the people we've interviewed have car insurance and vehicle registration. So we would argue that those kinds of documents be able to be utilized. But the other thing that we've seen in our legal clinics is, I'd say about 10% of everyone we've interviewed has been previously licensed in California. As you know, prior to 1994, if you're undocumented, you could get a California driver's license. So I would urge the DMV to go figure out a means, and I've talked to a computer consultant, an expert, who says that you do have the capacity to access those records prior to 1994 and let people use their old DMV expired license as a means of identification. The other thing we've seen in our legal clinics when we review documents is people who have licenses from other countries that are expired or other states that are even current. And we would argue that those documents be able to be utilized too. Thank you.
Since our computer system's been around since Fred Flintstone had a driver's license, if you want to give us the name of that expert
I
that says
will.
that he can pull out of our system records that are over 10 years old, we sure would like to know.
She says you can do it, so I'll give you her name. Thank you.
Thank you. This should be Jessica, and if you can pronounce your last name correctly for me.
It's Calix.
Calix. Thank you.
I came from,
You can pull the microphone down.
thanks.
There you are.
I came from San Diego this morning, and I wanted to talk about some of the residency documents. If they could be expanded to include some other possibilities. If you're undocumented and you don't have a social security number, there are a lot of exclusions, and it would be horrible to see exclusions within the possibilities of getting a driver's license, not have your car impounded, and be able to, I don't know, do different things with your license. So we're hoping to ask to request like insurance documents, pieces of personal mail, maybe statements from a homeless shelter. This is regarding residency. Maybe auto insurance, court documents, church documents. I feel like it really needs to be expanded to more than just documents we know that people cannot get without a social security number, because it's not very realistic.
Okay, thank you. Our next commenter would be Michelle Krug, K-R-U-G. Also come forward Carlos Sanchez, S-A-N-C-H-E-D, I'm sorry. Luz Gallegos, G-A-L-L-E-G-O-S, and Christopher Ryan, R-Y-A-N. At the microphone should be Michelle Krug.
Can I take it off? Okay. Thanks. Hi, thank you for the opportunity to speak before you. I am a concerned citizen from San Diego, that those words seem to have been used in this room as a code for people that are against this regulation. I am completely for it, so I'm taking those words back. I would like to ask, because of all the people that cannot come up here from San Diego and from all other parts of California, I really would appreciate your mindfulness about expanding those opportunities for them to be able to prove residency. So, you know, to not repeat, but those things like children's records, tribal certifications, et cetera, I think that's really important. I was thrilled to hear you say that the translation of birth certificates is not a requirement from the translation being done by the consulate, because that's what we had been under the impression of. So I'm thrilled that because that really was a stoppage point. So I'm glad that that is not required. And also I would like to encourage you about, as previously mentioned, about the language access. I hadn't even really thought about that, of tests being done in certain languages, but the books not being available. So as much as you can do to facilitate that would be highly appreciated. Again, thank you for your taking in these comments and taking them into consideration.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carlos Sanchez. I am also from San Diego, as been mentioned before, and while my biggest logistical challenge getting to LA is the traffic, as people have mentioned, the Border Patrol checkpoint on the 5 is a little difficult for a lot of people in our community, and especially my friends. So I would like to ask in the secondary review process to, in addition to the documents listed, add foreign passport or consulate ID that's expired within the last 5 years. Many have trouble trying to get to their consulate. This is the case in Washington State, and I believe that California should stand alongside Washington in protecting and empowering the economic refugees in our country. In addition to that, San Diego also has a very large asylee community, and I have noticed the document that will be accepted for secondary review is an application for asylum. And I would implore the Department of Motor Vehicles to, in addition to that, add application for temporary protected status, application for humanitarian parole, and an application for an adjustment of status. Just because somebody's application is on hold doesn't mean their life is on hold. Thank you.
Thank you. Quite a few speakers have asked us to accept an expired passport. I just want to point out, proposed section 16.04 subsection C says at number 1, an expired foreign passport that meets the International Civil Aviation Organization standards with an issue date after 2005. So we are also accepting expired passports. Thank you. This should be
Luz.
Luz, thank you.
Hello, my name is Luz Gallegos. I'm Community Programs Director for Training Occupational Development Educating Communities, which stands for TODEC. I come from Paris, California, not France, but from the Inland Empire. We service Riverside, San Bernardino, and Imperial counties. We had our first forum with DMV back in March. And in Coachella and Hesperia, we had 2, and we're having one in July. And I really want to applaud the DMV staff because they've really been coming down to the grassroots and giving out the information and also gathering information. We've been holding educational workshops, teaching the rules of the road and getting them prepped up. And many of the concerns, is I don't want to be repetitive with most of our our colleagues that already talked, but the situation with the documentation really worries because, especially around the birth certificates and the voter registration, they say, well, we have to go back to Mexico to get them, but how are we going to get back? So there's that's a big issue, but then again, we're here to collaborate, and we're here to work in collaboration with the coalition and moving California forward, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Christopher Ryan.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for being here. I guess because the comment was already addressed several times, respecting your rules that you established in the beginning of the meeting, I'll just say this, listening to the people against the bill, I believe that California is a great state, and we are going into uncharted territories. I feel like fear has risen. It just seems like it's the fear of our own people, DMV workers and institutions and government that aren't going to be able to do their job, aren't going to have the intelligence to, and let a terrorist sneak through the system. I feel like let's trust in our government, let's trust in our system, and let's put faith in the people who are working here, that they do have the intelligence and IQ to determine one person from another. So I just wanted to say thank you again. And
thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate that. Thank you. Isabel Medina, M-E-D-I-N-A, please come forward. Also, Lucy Boutte, B-O-U-T-T-E, and Juvenal, J-U-V-E-N-A-L, Solano, S-O-L-A-N-O. Thank you. This should be Isabel?
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Isabel Medina. I am a CHIRLA member, and I am also undocumented. AB 60 allows me to provide without any fear to being pulled over and many more things, and one of those, discrimination, but also allows me to contribute even more to this great nation, in particular to California. And I would like to suggest you that LAUSD, as a volunteer, a parent, a volunteer, LAUSD provides us a school ID to be able to come in and out at any time while we volunteer. So I would like to suggest you to take that into consideration, because many people like myself who volunteer in schools, we have that identification. And also, I am a Chirla member, and my organization also have an ID identification that will be very helpful if you take that into consideration. And like I said, driver's license not only allow me to drive without any fear, but also allows me to contribute even more to this great nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. My name is Lucy Boutte. I'm with the office, or the Commission for the Office of Life, Justice, and Peace for the Catholic Archdiocese here in Los Angeles.
I'm going to stop you because I don't think I spelled your last name.
It's
So I'm going to.
Boutte.
Thank you.
And we're concerned, I echo much of what has been said and what we do about documentation. We're concerned with the inability for many people to secure that kind of documentation that you're asking for, especially passports, birth certificates. In some countries, they won't even unless you go there. So how are we going to get that? And we encourage you to place in the secondary, I suppose, the church documents, because we do have, and some of our parishes in the Archdiocese are actually issuing ID cards with pictures, or, yeah, for the church. The other concern is the Spanish translation of the test. It seems that we're getting word that much of that is very, very difficult, extremely difficult. The test in Spanish seems to be much harder than English, and some who don't speak that much or don't read that much English are in other countries, in other states rather, have been taking the test in English because the Spanish was so bad. So if there's any way to do something about that, I don't know who translated or how they did that, but it doesn't seem to be the kind of language that most of our undocumented people speak. So thank you very much, and adelante.
I just want to point out, we hear your concerns about the test, and we're actually taking a look at the test to make sure that the translations are more equivalent to what is in the English version, so that the tests are meet your concern. They're just equivalent. So that is a serious issue for us, and I thank you for bringing that up. This should be a Juvenal, I guess, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your first name. Its last name is Solano, S-O-L-A-N-O. The first name is J-U-V-E-N-A-L. Thank you.
Mi nombre es Juvenal Solano, vengo del Condado de Ventura y represento al Proyecto Mixteco.
My name is Juvenal Solano. I come from Ventura County, and I represent the Mixteco Project.
En el Condado de Ventura, el 80% de la fuerza laboral agrícola son mixtecos de Guerrero y Oaxaca.
In Ventura County, 80% of the farm workers are Mixteco from Mexico, from Oaxaca and the state of Guerrero.
La mayoría de ellos solo hablan su lengua nativa, que es el mixteco.
The majority of them only speak their native tongue, that is the Mixteco.
A nombre de la comunidad mixteca, les pido muy respetuosamente de que tomen en consideración poner el manual y el examen en audio en mixteco.
I request for you to consider that the manual and should be in the Mixteco language and also audio.
Para que así estas personas tengan la misma oportunidad de aplicar por una licencia y así conocen las leyes y las calles están más seguras.
This way, these people have the opportunity of getting a license and drive on the streets, and that creates safer streets.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's now about 10 minutes to 12, but just by the number of people that we still have to go through, I think we can accomplish this. I was going to take a lunch break at noon, but I think if we just go ahead and go forward and let everyone come through, we will be through sooner than I thought today. So I'm just going to go ahead and take our next, it looks like we have about 8 or 9 more speakers, and so that should not take very long. So, the next person I have is Zizi Bandera, Zizibandera. I'd also like to call forward Miguel Molina, Molina. Edgin, Edgan, Ico, Ico. Or that might be Edgar. And Moises Alfaro, Moises Alfaro. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Zizi Bandera, and I'm with Chirla. I work with a lot of LGBT immigrants through Chirla, and I wanted to echo the request for sensitivity trainings regarding LGBT identity, specifically what it means to be transgender, and have our DMV workers be trained on how to handle or how to work through those cases with our community. I also wanted to, one of the reasons for those trainings that are necessary is because having to present documentation, whether it's identity or residency that has a name or gender that you don't currently identify with, can be very traumatic and triggering for our community members. So that's another reason why it's very important for the DMV workers to be trained. And then also, folks may have documents, transgender folks may have documents that don't match, whether it's their residency and identity documents that don't match with how they currently identify. So I was wondering if there's a process already in place, or how the DMV workers will go about proving or being able to give them licenses.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and then one last thing, that was a question, but transgender folks may come to the DMV wanting a gender or name change, and it's my understanding that the process will be the same as it currently is for citizen transgender community, but I'm asking if the DMV has a process in place already guiding folks on how to go about getting a gender or name change?
We do, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Miguel Molina?
Yes. Hi, my name is Miguel. I'm representing the California Dream Network, which is the youth branch of Chirla. And so one of the things I want to make sure is that most of our community is able to benefit from this amazing opportunity that we have. And some of us do not have the privilege to get certain requirements. So it would be great if we could be as flexible as possible and allow school records, because from my experience, my parents have a lot of, under my name, a lot of their name and residency under it. So that would be a great opportunity for them to benefit. And also, previous driver license, I know some community members that have gotten their previous license before, and it'll be great if you guys also allow them to continue using that as identification for residency, if not option 4 as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Edgar Eichel. I'm a construction worker on one of the biggest unions in the United States, Local 11. So I'm here because, I would like to see all my people and different people from different countries to at least have the chance, to have a license like mine over here and be like this, not different like others, So, because I know that some people sometimes they want them to have a different one, and I'm against that. So, and then I grew up right here in the ghettos in LA. Now I moved to Antelope Valley, Palmdale, and then sometimes we blame people that they have no license, and I don't think it's fair, because I see that people that have license and they abuse the license because they know they have it and they do whatever they want. And just a few months ago, somebody got killed in Palmdale, teenager, with a guy with license. So I don't think that's the way to treat our people and other people. So I know that there's access right there in in their embassies, or on their consulate, that they can have access a product they can go and get like a ID card, like Mexican consulate or Guatemalan, or like maybe a bill electrical bill from 10 years ago, or because some people, they put some papers in the file. So I think there's a way that DMV, they can have some information from them, So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Alfaro, you will need language assistance? Thank you.
Yeah.
His name is Moises Alfaro, Moises Alfaro.
Yes.
Thank you.
Señor, buenas tardes a todos ustedes. Primeramente, quiero agradecer al DMV por tomar en consideración para poder obtener esta licencia que mucha falta nos hace. Yo, por ejemplo, soy un trabajador como cualquier otro.
First of all, good afternoon, and thank you to the DMV for considering issuing licenses to people like me, who needs it very much. I am a worker, just like anybody else.
Bueno, anteriormente ya hemos quizás visto qué tipo de documentos es y ahorita lo siguen mencionando, lógico.
We have seen already earlier what kind of documents will be needed, and now you're still mentioning it, obviously.
Mire, lo único es que yo propongo solamente que sea una acta de nacimiento de nuestros países. Por ejemplo, yo soy de Perú y nuestras actas de nacimiento no nos dan con fotografía. Solamente.
I propose, for example, that I will suggest is that you receive, say, a birth certificate from our countries. For example, I'm from Peru, and in our countries, our birth certificates don't have a photograph.
Y de ahí podría basarse las demás documentaciones y puede hacer verdaderamente una identificación adecuada.
And additional documentation could be based on the birth certificate, and therefore you could have then a reliable identification.
Como miembro de Chirla y como un jornalero a nivel de todo el Valle de San Fernando, que nosotros esperamos esa realidad de esta licencia favorable para todos nosotros, la comunidad hispana.
As a member of Chirla and as a day laborer in the San Fernando Valley, I hope and await this reality of this driver's license. It will be a reality for all of us in our community.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Carlos Montes, Montes. Also come forward, please. Axel Parderes, Paredes, and Dan Rosenberg, Rosenberg.
Yes, good morning. My name is Carlos Montes. I am the president of the Bull Heights Neighborhood Council, just recently elected. We're elected by the community in Bull Heights in a election which everyone can vote, regardless of ID or immigration status. And I wanted to share a resolution, which is kind of long, so I won't give you all the whereases and therefores. I'll give you a copy if you'd like.
That would be fine.
Okay, but the main point we point out, obviously, we support the driver's license for everyone who passes the test. We also point out that we do not want a license that will be marked to distinguish someone who is documented or undocumented, okay?
You do understand that's required by the statute.
We still disagree.
Right,
Okay, we
but
disagree.
in the regulations, we can't do anything that is contrary to what is required by the statute. If we were to do so, that would be a basis for disapproving the regulation, and then we wouldn't be issuing the licenses. So just keep in mind what is required in the statute, we will have to do.
The statute that requires it has to be a visible mark of some type or some type of terminology.
But the statute also says that we have to do what would be required by the Department of Homeland Security, even if it's different than what the statute specifically says.
Well, we disagree with the Department of Homeland Security. The 13th of this month, we did a phone call to Jeff Johnson saying, stop harassing, stop discriminating against California driver's license design. Okay, so we disagree with Jeff Johnson, Department of Homeland Security. They should keep their hands off the California design,
I-
okay?
I
Secondly,
understand,
right.
but the statute itself that
Right.
was enacted says that we would have to design it according to the specifications of the Department of Homeland Security.
Okay, well, we understand that by having a distinguishing mark, it could lead to racial profiling, harassment, and deportations of our people, okay? So for the record, the Boyle Heights Neighborhood Council says no marking on the driver's license, and I'll give you a copy.
Thank you.
Can I give it to you here, or do you have someone?
Just the young lady in the back of the room. Actually, she's walking forward to hand me a sheet right now.
Thank you very much.
Dan Rosenberg.
Yeah, hi, thank you. It's Don Rosenberg.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right, I've been called worse. What I hear constantly from almost every speaker that comes up here is the desire to water down what is already a document list that's practically impossible to validate. The purpose of identification is to prove who you are, not who you say you are. So I would ask you to be really tight on that list. Furthermore, I know you shut down that woman who was talking about the matricular cards. The statute throughout talks about satisfactory proof and valid matricular card. Doesn't say you have to accept the matricular card. So I would like, you don't have to do it today, but for the record, for you to define what satisfactory means and what valid means. And finally, if you go forward using most of the regulations that have been put forward, the state of California will be issuing more fake identification than any other governmental agency, and I really don't think that was the intention of AB 60. Thank you.
Thank you. The word valid means what it means, and it's in that section, and it says valid unexpired, so the statute speaks for itself. The next person we have is Emilio Vega, V-E-G-A, I believe. And then after that, Mari Lopez, L-O-P-E-Z. The first name is spelled M-A-R-I. After that, Adela Montez, I believe it is, M-O-N-T-A-Z, it looks like. When you come forward, spell it correctly for me. Emilio Vega.
That is me. Good afternoon or good morning. I don't know what it is. So I'm from Central Hollywood Neighborhood Council, but I'm, as a career or living, I'm a filmmaker. And I believe that from what we hear is the authority for giving this license are not acting in a good faith. You are putting just marking, you are illegal, you are this, you are that. You're not, it seems like not acting in a good faith to give a people a document by saying or marking, labeling them who they are, how they are. You don't know how they are. You know by the picture. And I believe it's not so just as to give a document and people labeling them, you are illegal, you are this, you are that. We, all of us are a citizen and driver license. It's not, it's a privilege that we get. And those people work here and paid money, and I believe they should have that privilege too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mari Lopez.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so very much for having this. This is a fantastic turnout, and we're so very appreciative of the DMV being so supportive of the community and their interests and concerns regarding this new process procedure and the changing of this law. I represent Visión en Compromiso, a statewide network of promotores and community health workers. We just, to be brief, we just want to concur with the points submitted by Chirla, as well as the California Immigrant Policy Center. And just to add to what they've already covered, just to let you know, promotores are individuals who work out in the community. They travel far distances, particularly in the Central Valley. We're a statewide network once again, And these are folks who are out there supporting the community in any way they can with health information, education, immigration changes as well. And so their ability to be able to travel far distances is very challenging when you rely on public transportation. The fact that they haven't been able to apply for our driver's license has been a barrier for them to be able to, again, get from one place to another, particularly doing this community work. So again, we just want to appreciate the fact that this change is occurring. Again, want to just highlight the points that Shirley submitted, particularly with the extension of the passports. The expiration, as you've already heard numerous times, is insufficient time enough for folks to be able to provide the required documentation according to your recommendations. However, you should consider anything with a photo ID that's within that 20-year to 15 to 20-year expiration should be considered acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. With Adela Montes? And can you spell your first and last name for us, please?
My name is Adela Montañez. It's spelled is Adela. My last name is Nontane, C like zebra. Thank you for coming here. And actually, I work for Latino Health Access in Orange County. I am community health worker, and I am very, very excited to know that ABC 60 approved. And I'm very excited because in Santana, California, is a lot community. 78% is Latino community. The people is very interesting. The people is work hard for every day. Work hard, and actually like the idea for the driver license because sometimes it's a lot accidents, you know. It's when you crash your car, you know who is the person, you know. It's very important this in this time that people need to. It's not scary to go to the work. Not scary to go to the pick up or bring your children to the schools. And it's very important, you know. The process for the DMV is flexible and very short times for the process. And the documentation, I see the proposal for you is very good. But I think so is a lot of papers, but maybe choose some specific papers like the passport, driver license in the other countries, or maybe like the IDs for the nonprofit organization. Is good. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, our last speaker is just signed in as Occupy Los Angeles. I will take one person, so if there is someone that is going to speak on their behalf, please come forward. Spell your name, state your full name and spell your name for us. Thank you.
Occupy Los Angeles, OCCUPY.
No, the name of the commenter, please.
Oh, CHRIS, middle name RYAN, Ryan, last name LEGAL, Senior.
Thank you.
And I have 2 minutes?
Yes.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for everybody that came here. I'm just going to give you our perspective, which is a cross-section of a diverse group of individuals, which is one. If this country's intent is to finally allow the Indians and the ancestors of the Indians and the breed that came from there to retake back California and take back this country, then I say go ahead and pass this bill. If you understand that, because what you're doing, you're sanctioning illegal conduct and giving it the approval to be legal.
Okay.
And that's
At the
okay.
beginning of this hearing, I pointed out there were certain things I would not accept comments on, and one of them was whether or not to implement this law. It seems that's what your comment is.
I'll change the comment.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the consequences of approving driver's license will be in favor of doing it because it's going to help the illegal hit and run. It's going to help people who are here get to work. But the drawback of that is no other country allows someone to be here illegally and then sanction them legally by driving in that country.
Okay, that is the same subject, and as I mentioned earlier this morning, the law is the law. We have an obligation to enforce it. So do you have any comments about specific provisions of the regulations?
I think the regulation should be flexible enough to include other types of ID that would be sufficient for that. I think the regulation might be considered to be amended to allow a temporary license, not similar to the regular driver's license. Because in some countries like England, they give people a temporary license, which specifies that it's temporary and it's not a permanent license. So I think those are some of the provision that can be amended to what you're doing already.
All right,
But I
thank you.
think overall the intent of the statute is well taken, but I think the end result might be detrimental long range.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I misspoke earlier. I have two more, and then we're going to close the hearing. I have Jose Felix Cabrera, C-A-B-R-E-R-A. And actually, it's three more. Ted Burnett, please come on forward, and also Carlos Amador, A-M-A-D-O-R. This should be Mr. Cabrera.
Oh, sí, muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es José Félix Cabrera. Soy promotor del Consejo de Federaciones Mexicanas en Norteamérica y del Consejo Vecinal de MacArthur Park, oficial electo.
¿Cómo se llama? José Félix Cabrera. Yes, I'm José Félix Cabrera. I am a promoter with COFEM, and I also represent the district in MacArthur Park, and I've been elected there.
Yo creo que esto lo estamos haciendo muy difícil. La gente solamente debe de tener una identificación, un acta de nacimiento y una aseguranza, que toda la comunidad tiene una aseguranza.
I believe we were doing this very difficult. I think people should just have a birth certificate, an identification, and insurance. Everybody has insurance.
Lo que queremos son carreteras seguras. Lo que no queremos es tener accidentes. Si tenemos un accidente, queremos que la persona esté registrada.
What we want are safe highways. We don't want to have accidents. And if there's an accident, we want that person to have been registered.
Yo creo que también con la huella que se está tomando en motores y vehículos, eso es lo que va a identificar también a la persona que va a solicitar una licencia.
And I believe as well that with the fingerprint that will be taken at DMV, that will help to identify that person.
Mi responsabilidad como persona, como voluntario en la comunidad, es llevarle la información a la persona para que se estén preparando para poder tener una licencia. Entonces, por favor, yo creo que lo más pronto es agilizar los documentos que se van a requerir.
My responsibility as a community representative is to go back to my community with the information. And so what I request is that you make it easier as far as getting the information as to what kind of documentation they will need.
Quiero darles mis más sinceras gracias y gracias por su tiempo y sinceramente me siento muy bien que hagan estos foros para la comunidad. Gracias.
My most heartfelt thanks. I'm very glad and happy that you are doing these forums, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Burnett, and his last name is spelled B-U-R-N-E-T-T.
Yes, how you doing?
Good morning.
My name is Ted Burnett, and I'm the statewide DMV coordinator for SEIU Local 1000, which represents 6,414 DMV workers from the Oregon border to the Mexican border. And first of all, I want to thank the DMV department and the community groups who's working with us to make sure we get this right. And for everyone in the audience, the DMV workers are respectful, they are hardworking, and they are very well trained, okay? Also, currently the DMV workers are in the process of receiving updated, meaning that they get training all the time, but updated sensitivity training. And also the good thing for the community is the DMV is hiring close to 1,000 new workers. So if you have any relatives or friends or family who meet the minimum criteria, please go to spb.ca.gov, apply, because as the department continues to mirror the community, we would love to have more people come in and get hired. Also, study hard for the tests. The department has opened up and worked with a lot of groups and the counselors to study for the test. Please study hard, and the employees will be ready for you when you come in January. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And lastly, Carlos Amador, AMA-DOR.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for hosting this hearing. We really appreciate it. Carlos Amador with the California Immigrant Policy Center. And just wanted to make a couple of comments and observations. We have submitted our official comments as well, but just wanted to bring attention that oftentimes obtaining birth certificates, which was one of the options in the identification process, might be really hard for our community to get. In some cases, it might take more than 6 months. Or even, in some cases, not even available. It's also a little bit unclear in regards to when we talk about whether birth certificates will be able to have an embedded photograph, which is also one of the options there listed. We want to also highlight that through the immigration, like USCIS immigration processes, they are very much flexible in regards to obtaining or receiving identification, proof of identification as well. So some of the recommendations that we have is to ensure that applicants can prove identity by submitting either a current form of a current foreign passport or a consular ID. And the reason we bring this up is because we know that in option 2, it requires both of the documents, but it's really expensive for our community to be able to access both of them. And to not require the presentation of multiple documents, when we think a single document would be sufficient. So thank you so much. And if you all want to, do you want a sticker? Just
Certainly.
Yay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was our last speaker. I'm just going to give you an update on what our next steps will be from here. Many of you may not be familiar with the formal rulemaking process, and I would like to take a few minutes to briefly outline what's going to happen next. As I mentioned earlier, the rulemaking process is governed by the provisions of the Administrative Procedures Act, which can be found in the California Government Code. After we conclude the public hearing, we will review, summarize, and respond to all written and oral comments. We had over 1,244 email comments yesterday morning when I left my office in Sacramento at 11 o'clock. I hate to see how many there are there now. If those comments lead to a revision of the proposal, and if necessary under the APA, we will provide additional notice of the changes. Our summary and responses to comments will be incorporated into a final statement of reasons that will be submitted with the final text of the regulation, along with a transcript of both this hearing and the hearing in Oakland, and copies of all written comments as part of the rulemaking file. Once approved by OAL, the regulations will go into effect as specified in Vehicle Code Section 12801.11. So that is either by January 1, 2015, or if the Director of the Department of Motor Vehicles has certified that the department is prepared to start issuing licenses at an earlier date. So with that, I am going to conclude this hearing, and we really appreciate all of you attending this morning. Thank you.